So there we have it. The Democrats won control of the Senate over the weekend, making Georgia still relevant, but not as much. It's going to be, at best for the Republicans, what it was before, a 50-50 Senate with Kamala Harris casting the deciding vote. And it could go even 51-49 if the Dems win Georgia, which is better for the Dems because then if you have a peel-off like Manchin, they can handle it. They don't need every single member. In any event, so the Dems take the Senate. Looks like the GOP takes the House. And what is your reaction to that news? Just barely, by the skin of their teeth, taking the House.
Well, it's an ungodly disaster if you think about it. Just because a first-term president loses on average about 22 seats, no matter if he's popular or unpopular. But Joe Biden was a force multiplier of that effect. He was very unpopular, 38 to 42%. None of the issues that he enacted as policies had 50% support. So they should have had at least 20 seats and 2 or 3 Senate seats, and they didn't. And what's depressing about it, Megyn, is that when you look at the disaster, there's so many factors, and they all went against the Republicans. So on the one hand, you had Donald Trump before the election attacking DeSantis, sanctimonious, or trying to preempt the attention by saying he was going to have a big announcement that may have turned off DeSantis voters from Trump-supported candidates, or it may energize left-wing people that were so angry that Trump was going to run, they thought. But he should have kept quiet. And then you have Mitch McConnell when you say, well, Trump's not the person, let's turn to the Republican establishment. And then you have Mitch McConnell pouring money into Alaska to adjudicate 2 Republicans and 1 that's more conservative, and he's attacking her and not putting the full amount. And then you think, well, he didn't put the full amount of money in, and he didn't to save Blake Masters. But then you look at Donald Trump, he had $100 million. He was very stingy with it. So then when you think, well, that was a problem, then you say, but almost every Democrat, with the exception of the Nevada governor, loses on election day and wins afterwards. So there's something about the mail-in ballot. It's one of the greatest revolutions in American history, I think, because we went from election day of about 70% participation before COVID. In many states, it's down to 30%. And the Democrats that have the money and the tech savviness, they have mastered that art. And that's the good take on it. But every day, as you pointed out, that the ballot is delayed, the count is delayed, then there's more avenues for, suspicion. And so if the Republicans don't address mail-in balloting, they're going to lose. If they've got to find out they got to find an establishment that knows how to win. And then they had a mistake when they were very good at pointing out what was wrong with Joe Biden, but almost none of the candidates would say gas prices are horrible, and therefore I'm going to open up ANWR, Keystone. We're going to have legislation going on the first week, sort of like they said in '94 with the Contract of America, or inflation. We're going to have a balanced budget engine, or we're going to build, let's say, 100 miles of the wall. Even if they couldn't do it, given the veto of Joe Biden, they could have given constructive solutions to these problems. And then finally, they were caught off guard. I think I was too, when I heard Joe Biden with these Phantom of the Opera speech about semi-fascist on America. And I thought, that is so patently crazy. And the idea you tie the attacker of Paul Pelosi, who was a homeless nut, nudist, had BLM and pride flags, and you tie him to MAGA rhetoric, nobody's going to believe that. And then people said, well, abortion is 4th or 5th concern of voters on exit polls. And, Roe v. versus Wade just turns it over to the state. And many of these people who oppose abortion were not going to outlaw it if a woman is raped or a victim of incest. So that there was a lot of complacency, but that worked. That demonization of the Republicans as election deniers or insurrectionists or un-American was very effective for Joe Biden. And he never defended his record. It's like, I'm bad, but these guys are worse. So all of those together explain it. I don't know the degree to which each is a contributor and factor, but they're so multifarious, it's hard for us to get, to address all of them at once, is what I'm saying. So what happens, everybody picks and chooses If you're a Trump supporter, you blame Mitch. If you're a Republican Romneyite, McCainite, you blame Trump. If you didn't really get the message at the RNC, then you bring the candidates rather than the RNC that should have had a holistic approach for solutions. And then the state secretary of states, as you say, that they don't take responsibility, especially in red states, that the balloting has been hijacked. It's not. Election day doesn't exist. Election night doesn't exist. It's just a continuous, monotonous process, amorphous. We don't even know what's going on, whether it's majority voting in Georgia or ranked voting in Alaska or here in California. Everybody gets a ballot whether you request it or not. There's no audit, or they have this curing process where if you have a ballot that's rejected, you get another chance maybe to add your address if it's not valid. So it's
Nevada
it's a mess. Yeah, it's a mess.
Mm-hmm. Trump is just truthing on his social network about this very issue in, typical Trump terms, but just to tell you what he's saying. I assume everyone's watching Arizona as the great Kari Lake's easy election win is slowly yet systematically being drained away from her and from the American people. This is a very sad thing to watch. Mail-in ballots, long election counts, many-day elections, machines that very few people understand, massive counting centers, and more are an American disaster. Our elections have become an unreliable joke, and the whole world is watching, he goes on. Even Jimmy Carter, in his and other highly respected politicians and professionals report, said mail-in ballots cannot be trusted. There will be massive cheating. A 10-year-old child would understand that. When will Republicans learn? If they don't stop this mail-in scam now, there won't be any Republicans left. Get rid of McConnell. He never should have accepted what was sent to him by Mike Pence. He should have fought like hell, like the Dems would have. Losers are losers. That will never change. Just another giant election scam. Wake up, America. All right, putting the typical Trump rhetoric aside, the point on mail-in ballots, I mean, he's seeing exactly what you're seeing.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that Kari Lake's election is being stolen, right? We don't have evidence that it's actually being stolen.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point. So what you read from Trump was 75% accurate until the last 25% about Mike Pence and everything. And it applies to 2020. That election, and I wrote a column about it in March and April of 2020. That election was lost when the DNC and activists went in to these key states, about 9 or 10 of them. They went into Arizona, they went into Pennsylvania, they went into Michigan, and in various ways they overturned the will of the state legislatures and law in the books, either by saying that you don't have to have your complete name, or you don't have to have your complete address, or you can mail-in ballot on the day of the election will count, or even in some states after election day will count. So it was a radical change. It was all designed to eliminate election day. And it worked. And Donald Trump knew that. And he had a lot of money. And there were people saying, why don't you get your legal team to go into these states and fight, because they're cherry picking judges or they're doing it by administrative edict. And the result was the RNC in general and Trump in particular got sandbagged. And that was really the issue. When he says there was fraud, or it is in a way fraud, but it was done legally. Early on, it wasn't computers were communicating with China, or it wasn't that, but had 70% of the people voted on election day, which usually happens, I think Donald Trump would have won. But that decision was made, unfortunately, in March and April, and nobody caught it, or they didn't want to spend the money to challenge the Democrat.
I've never been able to compost before. I've never tried composting before. It just seemed too complicated and like too much work. Not anymore, thanks to Lomi. Lomi allows me to turn my food scraps into dirt with the push of a button, and it's fun. Lomi is a countertop electric composter that turns scraps into dirt in under 4 hours. There's no smell when it runs, and it's super quiet. Thanks to Lomi, I have way less garbage each week. Instead, I turn this waste into nutrient-rich dirt that I can feed to my plants. My kids and I now take the little leftovers from dinner, and instead of putting them in the garbage where they're going to smell if you don't immediately empty it, we put them in the little Lomi. And it's hilarious. You got to get the Lomi. Like, here's the little instruction sheet. I'm just going to give you a sample. Do's in terms of what you can put in there: fruit and vegetable scraps, food leftovers, plate scrapings. That's what we do. Meat scrapes and so on. Don'ts: hard bones, you can see that. Cooking oils, I can see that too, right? Go down a little. Shampoo, don't put shampoo in your Lomi. Ready for it? Soiled diapers, don't put that in your Lomi. Diapers, wipes, hygiene products, pet waste, don't put that. So Lomi has idiot-proofed the whole process for you. Even I cannot screw it up. And I'm actually looking forward to the Lomi at the end of my meals. Now I'm composting, I'm creating soil instead of waste, and I still put the pet products out in the little pet trash can we have outside, as you should do too. I have a basically limitless supply of dirt from my growing garden. And if you want to start making a positive environmental impact and have fun reading the sheet like we are, or just make cleanup after dinner that much easier, Lomi is perfect for you. Head on over to lomi.com/MK. Use the promo code MK to get $50 off your Lomi. That's $50 off when you head to lomi.com/MK. Use promo code MK at checkout. Food waste is gross. Lomi's your solution. With the holidays just around the corner, Lomi will make the perfect gift for someone on your shopping list. Lomi.com/MK. Hey, thanks so much for watching. If you like what you just saw, hit the subscribe button for more clips and full episodes.